So, friends, good morning once again, and happy to have you all here. For the benefit of all our YouTube viewers and for all the people who will see this at a later date, uh, this forum is known as the Multimillionaire Forum. It's a free knowledge sharing forum. We endeavor to do this little research based communication with all of you, and this happens every single month on the first of Saturday. So we've already completed more than a year. So there are lots of editions of the MMF sessions, which you can find on our YouTube channel. And as we keep doing things, we'll continue to keep posting them. Meanwhile, if you find that there is anything interesting that you want us to talk about or any specific area of research you want us to conduct, we're very, very happy to talk about that and share those views with you as well. So what you see on your screen is a little disclaimer saying, which is a mandatory disclaimer. This is purely education, purely research. There's no product recommendation. There's no investment recommendation happening here. The way we do this session is that we have this session for about 30 minutes, give or take, and then we will have a little bit of Q&A. So please, let's continue. Let's begin our subject today. It's the greatest story ever told, the story of India. And it's just, absolutely fabulous because every single time we speak on this subject, we almost get goosebumps because there is so much happening. Very recently, you would have seen that in the stock market, and I tweeted on this as well as, and I broadcasted a message as well, that the Indian stock market reached 4 trillion milestone. The GDP is almost, 4 trillion milestone, according to some estimates. Some estimates, we are just a shade below that. And now the endeavor is to move to 10 trillion. We were talking about a 5 trillion economy, and some of you will remember in our sessions in November of 22 is when we did the first session. And in that session, we spoke about $5 trillion economy, and that the aim was to reach there by 2030. Now, what's happening is that the government has itself revised its estimates, and we think that this 5 trillion might happen by 26 or 27. And it's really surprising that, we might even see a 10 trillion number coming sooner than most people even thought of and expected. Why was it a good idea to talk about Indian economy now? Obviously, because the ruling party got its opportunity to once again go ahead and administer and govern the country for another 5 years to keep the development agenda going on. And as a result of which, a lot of things that we're going to speak about today are in reference with BJP's Sankalpa Patra, which is nothing but the election manifesto. A lot of interesting facts have been written there. We've compiled a lot of facts from a lot of other places as well. And I'm sure you will have a fabulous time as we sort of move through this story. I mean, it's a great story. And I think each one of us is absolutely privileged to be present at this time, to have our funds invested at this time, and we are literally on a daily basis, we are reaping the returns of the Indian economy, which is running away at jet speed. So please continue. So let's talk about power. I want to talk. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a certain number of pockets here, and how some of these pockets are shaping up over a period of time. So, see, when we talk about power, let me just remind you a little bit about why power is suddenly very, very important here, and why it becomes a very, very interesting growth area for India. So traditionally, power was always supplied through oil, right? And we are an oil importing country. We would import oil from around the world. And as a result of which, we would fuel our growth, we would fuel our automobiles, we would fuel our logistics, and all of that would happen because of oil. We would generate our own power. But now, in the last about a decade, in fact 2 decades, to about 15 to 20 years, this aspect of renewable power, renewable energy, clean energy has become more important than ever. And we did an extensive session on global warming and why it is absolutely necessary for the whole world to shift to renewable power. I will not go too much into that, but just so that you can have the context in place properly. We cannot have power, as you can see in your screen. We can't have this coal-fired power, or we cannot have these traditional method of power generation, because these are extremely harmful to the environment. What happens is heat is generated, and that heat keeps distributing itself. It dissipates into the atmosphere, makes the atmosphere warmer, and as a result of which, when all of us are running our air conditioners, and when all our industries are moving at full gear, at full throttle, the amount of heat that is generated in the atmosphere is way too much. And this actually changes all the seasons, dissipates the rainfall, etc. And that has a lot of negative effects and a lot of eventualities for our existence. So, which is why very, very important to focus on power. Okay. So now, in terms of power, the single largest thing that is coming out from the manifesto, as well as our objective, is the fact that we want to become a global manufacturing hub. Now, this is a very, very serious announcement. It's a very, very serious statement. When we say that we are going to become the global manufacturing hub, and we are almost saying things like we are going to become the Saudi Arabia of oil, what Saudi Arabia was in oil, we are going to become, we as in India is going to become that in terms of power. We will be exporting power. In G20 and in the session in G20, we spoke of how this alliance has been established. There is an economic corridor, and we are almost building a sort of a pipeline, or let's say an electrical line going all the way from India to Europe and the rest of the world. And we are going to export power. I mean, that's the ultimate vision. For our own country, we think we will become completely self-sufficient and completely energy independent by 2047, which means we will not need to import oil. We will have our own power generation, and most of the power will be renewable. Now, let me give you an idea, of course, in terms of what sort of power generation are we really talking about. We are today where we are in 2024. Okay. So in 2024, what are we talking? These numbers that we have given in front of you, which you saw a moment ago, the coal-based power and the traditional power that we have, we are somewhere at around 250 gigawatts of installed capacity today. In the next 5 years, how much is this going to go up? Barely 10 to 15%. Expected target is about 280, which is literally nothing. What does that mean? That we cannot reduce this traditional method of power generation, but the existing ones are just going to marginally increase. However, on the other side, the renewable energy, today's estimate says that we are at 190 gigawatts of power generation. This is going to go up to almost 3 times, 500 gigawatts. Now, Jhaveri, can you bring the slide back, please, for everyone's reference? Now, we are talking about solar power generation, specifically, as you can see on your slides, is moving up from 75 gigawatts to 275 gigawatts, almost 4 times. That is the amount of power generation that we are going to see happening, which means we are going to see solar panels being installed, we are going to see solar distribution happening. Now, think about all the companies involved here, and these are figures and facts from the Ministry of Power, right? So, which you can Google and you'll find all this information. Actually, there's a whole beautiful breakup, and there's a tabulation given, and which I'm referring to right now, whether it is for solar, wind, or green hydrogen, for biomass, for nuclear energy, all this. But the most important and the most, an area that deserves the maximum focus is this solar power. I mean, 4 times of that generation is humongous. Another huge area which I actually see, which is not there, is wind power, which is at 45 gigawatts, which is going to go to 120, 3 times again. So wind power, 3 times. Solar power, 4 times. Then I can see that we are going to go from nuclear power, which is at about 7 gigawatts, likely to go to 22 gigawatts. That's 3 times. So for all of you who are associated with these industries, or you work in these companies, the future for these sectors of these industries is unimaginable. The kind of wealth that will get created by investing in these companies, or funds that actually invest in these kind of themes, is going to be enormous. 5 years, this is going to be a life-changing opportunity. So which is why I'm spending so much of time on power. and especially solar. So, not only is the solar panel manufacturer going to make money, but even the person who makes the frame. Like if you see in your picture, there is a solar panel. There is something that connects these two things. There is something on which this is resting. There are certain hooks and levers on which those aluminum little legs on which these solar panels are resting. Every single industry and allied industry and associated industry is going to actually thrive in the next 5 years. And this is what the Ministry of Power numbers are representing. So that's what's happening in power. Now, let's come to a very interesting sort of a theme, okay? We're going to come to infrastructure. In terms of infrastructure, we are going to cover a few pockets. But now, in infrastructure theme per se, let's first talk about railways. See, until now in our country, what was happening is that passenger trains were running at a speed of between 40 kilometers per hour to 80 kilometers per hour, correct? So now the intention is to make this speed 160 kilometers per hour. So obviously it will happen in a phased manner. Today we have the Vande Bharat trains, etc., which are already moving at a very high speed. But if the intention is to gradually move all the passenger movement via trains to about 160 kilometers, see, there is a lot of changes that needs to be done. Come to that in a moment. Look at goods train. The average speed today is 35 to 40 kilometers. This moves to 100 kilometers an hour. Now, here we are again talking about tripling the speed. In passenger trains, we're talking about tripling and quadrupling. Now, why is this important? You might think, why are we talking about speed? I mean, what's the big deal? You should increase the speed, right? But see, the speed doesn't increase just by pressing the accelerator. It's not like sitting in your car and you're moving at the speed of 30 kilometers an hour. You press the accelerator a little more and you start moving at 60. It's not so simple as far as railways is concerned. Okay. Firstly, you need to have tracks that can support high speed. Then you need to have coaches, which is the bogies or the train wagons, which can support that kind of speed. Then on the wagon itself, when you're going to load logistics and when you're going to load goods on that, there needs to be a different method of holding the goods together. So right from the track to the wheel to the coach to the bogie itself or the wagon itself, everything needs to be either recast or completely redone. So which means, just think about it, the replacement demand is enormous. So in terms of the number of wagons that we need to have, the coaches that we need to have, in terms of the number of in terms of the lines that we need to replace, the tracks that we need to replace, the demand is phenomenal. And which means everybody is working, right from the catering service to the train to the signaling system to the stations. The stations also need to get upgraded, because otherwise, how are these trains going to? I mean, how would you feel if a bullet train came into a station which was absolutely in shambles and you didn't even have a proper exit? You can't do. The bullet train will open, and a lot of you who've traveled internationally already know. Metro travelers also know. The platform and the bullet train, etc., or these kind of high-speed trains need to be at the same level. It has to be seamless without even a millimeter difference. So which means there's a lot of upgrading that needs to be done. This is an area that promises to be a phenomenal growth driver, because that's the kind of activity that will happen in this space, right? So that's infrastructure and railways. Let's move on to the next area of roads. Needless to say, I mean, everybody in Mumbai these days is enjoying the coastal road. We're building 15,000 kilometers of roads. Not only that, we are very keen to build ring roads around most of the major cities. So there is a phenomenal amount of development which is happening in road infrastructure as we see. And I think every city is seeing a lot of activity happen. So that's getting upgraded, because you see, goods and people have to move faster. Otherwise, things don't really happen. Look at this. I'm sure all of you recognize the fact that these days when you travel, the airport doesn't look like what it used to look 20 years ago. I mean, there are instances where I've been at airports and you don't have a place to sit. They are so crowded. So just to give you some statistics and numbers, we had about 74 airports in 2014. Currently, in about 10 years, we are at 148 airports and estimated to become 220 airports by 2030. And currently, we have about 34 international airports versus that. it's anyone's assumption that we will at least have about 50 to 60 international airports in the next 5 years. Listen, friends, this is 5 years. We are not talking about 25 years. We're talking 5 years, and which is what I'm trying to emphasize again and again. Did you, for example, know that America has almost 20,000 airports? 20,000. Okay. And you can Google that. 19,000 something at the last count of, I think, 22 or something. So guessing it's about 20,000 plus. But out of that, the ones that are for civilian use is 5,000 airports. Now, USA is a massive country, 5,000. But in terms of population, we are almost 4 times the population of America. So the amount of air travel infrastructure that we need is unimaginable. So if there are 5,000 airports there and we are going to go to 220, imagine the amount of growth that might happen after 2030. But let's say we are taking just a 5-year sort of a time frame, right? Currently, the Director General of Civil Aviation, they say that our air traffic right now is about 15 crores. And this 15 crores is likely to grow to 30 crores passenger traveling by 2030. So passenger traffic is doubling. Airports are doubling. See the infrastructure, see the amount of growth. Now, how does an aircraft happen? If you just look at an aircraft, and even in your picture, when you start looking at things, how many things can you see? Right from the ladder to the to the glasses to the engines. There's so much to manufacture. And again, the focus is all that we want to try and indigenously manufacture to the extent possible. In terms of aircrafts, of course, this is not possible. Boeing and Airbus are the two large companies who are supplying all of this. But there is a lot more that we are doing, and you will see that in just a moment. Look at this area of infrastructure. This is very, very interesting again. There is a document, very interesting document, and you can Google it, read it. It's a lovely document. For a moment, can you just show that Maritime India Vision of 2030? If you can just show us the contents page for that document. Friends, this is enormous in terms of the activity that is happening in terms of building that Sagarmala project, which is nothing but ports lining up the whole country, and the amount of initiative that they want to do. So there's some 150 odd new initiatives. Just scroll up a little bit. I think they do talk about that. Scroll up a little bit. To the title page. That's it. So, but that's it. So here it says that Maritime India Vision, second paragraph, 2030, identifies 150 plus initiatives across various maritime sectors like ports, shipping, and waterways. Okay, now come down to the index. There's a huge amount of activity happening here. Right from developing port infrastructure to the logistics to actually creating a whole global environment for cruise tourism. I mean, look at from where to where we are moving. It's unimaginable. See, today we wanted to become a global manufacturing hub for power, right? And we want to export power. Look at the ambition that is thriving in India today. We want to become the global manufacturing hub for power supply, energy. We want to become the global hub for cruise tourism. I mean, you can already see chapter 7 here of this document, intention. And by the way, you see why these things are so important. It's not like governments in the past have not, published these kind of documents. They have. Every government has. And it's not like we are supporting any particular political party or government. We are just extremely happy as research people and as people who are consumers of these facilities that this infrastructure is not only being spoken of, but we are actually seeing execution of this infrastructure happening, and we are getting to use it, and it is happening at rapid speed. So that's what's most important. The execution intent is there, execution is happening, capability is there, there is funding available for that, and projects are getting completed on time or just about near time. So that's beautiful, right? There's another very interesting area. Flip back to that presentation, please. Very interesting thing that is happening again is the fact that India, and a lot of you probably don't know this, we are actually trying to become a global hub for ship repair and for ship building. So until now, some of you knew that Alang was, one of the ports on the south of Gujarat, where all the ships of the world which have been discarded or, which have been sold as scrap, they come there to get dismantled. And then the metal is sold separately as scrap, and the equipment is sold, and the glasses and everything which happens from there. Incidentally, this glass is also from one of the ships. I mean, it was sold. It came in a sealed pack. This is a very, very high grade of glass, very durable, extremely potent in terms of the quality. I mean, when you hold it, you can feel the quality. You may not. When you come to office, you'll see it. But just to give you an example, there's so much happening. So Alang was already happening, right? But along with Alang, now we are going to build. Okay, not only build, we want to become the global hub for repairs also. And we have got some very, very big companies which are building not only ships but also submarines. And we'll talk about that in defense. But we are building these ships, and we're getting orders from everywhere. Correct. Two other important factors to notice here: the cargo capacity, which was currently at about 3,300 tons, likely to triple by 10,000 to 10,000 tons by 2030. Very interesting. We have a network of rivers, by the way, in India. And in these rivers, they are going to create waterways. A lot of these waterways, we have 111 notified waterways, but most of them were created 2016 and thereafter. So, as you can see, there's a lot of development and activity work that is happening in this space of infrastructure also. We can keep talking, for this forever, but we have limited time. So, let's go to the next sector. Within infrastructure, now this is an absolute surprise. Okay? See, what happens is, please understand, government is not talking about this. This is purely our analysis. Okay, we've not given any label or any name to this thing, but I'm talking about real estate. See, a lot of you who interacted with me have always heard this thing that real estate, buy what you need to use, but you don't want to use, you don't want to divert a lot of your money into real estate as an investment. But there is something which is happening in real estate, to the extent that it was the best performing sector of last year. So the basket of real estate stocks, if you look at that as an index, by the way, we have more than 100 indices in India today. And the stock market is just not the Sensex or the Nifty that you see. There are about 100 indices to watch. And out of that, at least about 30 to 40 are very important and significant indices to watch. Okay, a lot of them would be duplication or similar, but which is why I'm saying there are at least about 30 very, very important indices to see. And within that, there are 5 or 6 that we see all the time, right? And which we've spoken and communicated about as well. So real estate, there's something happening there. Real estate suddenly was a surprise. Last year's highest in 2023, the highest return generated in any sector was real estate. Almost 80% growth. And I'm talking of the calendar year of 2023. Now, one needs to just kind of, peel the layer of the onion, if you like. Why did this thing happen? What happened suddenly in real estate? Is it that suddenly everybody thought that, I must have 3 houses or 2 houses, or I must have more offices, or I must start making commercial investments so that I earn better rentals? Nothing of that sort. But if you think about all the growth that we are talking about, see, India wants to become a global hub, right, for power. India wants to become a global hub, and we saw that for ship repairs. We saw that for cruise tourism. We saw that for Indian waterways. Okay. Now, when these kind of ambitions are put forward by the government as a policy measure, what automatically happens is that people who are involved in this, now obviously there are some government companies also who are doing this activity, but there is a lot of private sector involvement also. So companies like yours and mine, we are all a part of this. And because we all are a part of this, therefore everybody is making a lot of profit because they're getting more and more business. We'll show you order book slightly in just a moment. But the point is the entire country is prospering, which means everybody wants to buy more and more of real estate, because then they are thinking that if I made a business profit, then my saving capability is gone up, my investment capability is gone up, and therefore what are the investments to do? The investment is basically investing in the stock market, investing in the financial market, fixed deposits and bonds, investing in gold and bullion. I mean, that's another popular area of investment. And then, of course, there is traditional savings, but a big chunk of Indian savings also goes into real estate. And a lot of people have been buying a lot of real estate, not only in India, but Indians are buying real estate in other countries like Dubai, etc. as well. And some of you who are from Dubai will also sort of, vouch for that. Come back with the presentation. So there is a lot of things which are happening in real estate, and I think real estate is a result of the growth that has happened. So, so because there's growth happening in real estate, no, I think, did you miss the grid? Just one sec, go back, please. I think you just what's after this? Don't we have that sector slide? Can you show us that sector slide, please? And after this, okay, this is the one. Sorry. So I was looking at. So here, this is where I was talking about realty. What you see in 2023, which is marked in green here, that's the realty sector, which was the highest performer or the largest return generator for 2023. It's very surprising, right? The last time it was the highest generator was in 2019 and then 2017. And then for the last 13 odd years, real estate, this is the highest it has generated, 2023 and 2017, when it did 100%. And look at the disparity. See, this is, since we are on this slide, I want to spend a moment here also. Zaid, can you sort of just point to 2017 and 110% returns on realty? Yeah, so everybody knows where we're talking about. Just look at this. Now, point to note is that in 2017 calendar year, 110% was the return in real estate or realty sector or the realty index. Okay, you may not have seen your individual houses appreciate or your offices appreciate, but this is a sector, and the stock prices of all these stocks in the realty index as an aggregate went up by 110%. But look at what happened to the rest of the sectors. Pharma was actually a negative at 6%, and the others were 30-40%, which means what? It was a reasonably good year, but in that good year, actually real estate was better than most of them by a factor of 2x or 3x. So even something like a general index, like a mid cap, did 47, but we are looking at a sector. So if infrastructure did 34, realty is here something which did 3 times that. So very, very interesting to sort of note. And this is why sometimes when we recommend to move between one sector to another, this is where it actually comes very, very useful. And this is how sector movements are extremely important, and sector funds therefore become very, very important in our overall scheme of things. Okay. Right. So let's move on. Let's go to defense now. Very interesting space. Okay. Let's talk about defense now. See what's happening in defense. Again, look at the most important part of defense. See, 5 years back or even 10 years back, did we even think that Make in India would go to this level, to this extent? We are talking about becoming a global manufacturing hub. I can talk so much about geopolitics and what's happening here, but think about it. Today, India is being looked upon as a potential global export leader. And we are exporting what? We are exporting armaments, electronics, explosives. We are giving guns. We are making submarines for European nations. We've got orders from Europe. We've got orders from Australia. We are actually making submarines for these people. We are making, missile surveillance systems. There is just so much. In drone technology, we are doing a lot of moves. So suddenly, there's an explosion of activity that we're doing. Even in terms of, defense also has explosives. And you might think that what is explosives doing in defense? But that's another very interesting area, because, the chemicals that form the various explosives that are used in defense, that itself makes a big, big difference. Today morning's news, by the way, and I have some news that just came out just today morning. Very interesting. Okay, it's there in today's Economic Times. I just thought I'll share that with you. The annual defense production hits a record high of 1.27 lakh crores in FY24. And we're talking India. Why do you think countries of the West are actually worried about India's rising power in this global geopolitical equations? Because suddenly, if we are an arms manufacturer, if we are somebody who's controlling weapons, we are selling missiles, we are selling battle tanks, we are selling guns, we are doing all this. Just imagine what happens. We want to export, and we want to become one of the biggest exporters. 50,000 is the 50,000 crores the expected export level in the next few years. It's very interesting. Out of the total production in FY24, and I'm reading, 79% was contributed by the public sector undertaking defense companies, and 21% came from the private sector. And the value of defense production has gone up by 60% in the last 5 years. And we are talking, this is last 5. The next 5, we are talking about doubling and tripling. So think about again how much is happening. Oh, there's a very interesting thing. Let's show the order book, please. Can you share the order book of some of the defense companies? So a lot of times, so people tell me, and we've had these discussions. Market is very expensive. Market is flying away. I mean, how long will this rally kind of keep happening? Now, look at this thing. This is something which we found on the internet, okay? And this comes on the Twitter account, but we verified. So this is the order book of aerospace companies and defense companies, okay? And this is from the Twitter account of this person. Do we have his name? That's his picture. And it says Mr. Talk Stock, but we verified this, okay? And he's also, of course, made references to our defense minister's announcements and all of that. So go on. Let's look at the order book of some of these companies. I mean, it's crazy. Look at this market capitalization. Now, look, I know a lot of people, you are not experts in finance, but I'll tell you how to read this thing. Okay, very, very simple. Just think about it that today, let's say a very simple example, okay? You're salaried, you're doing a simple, you're employed, you're doing a simple job somewhere. And say your income today is 100 rupees. And you get a job offer that, look, you come and work with me and I'll give you 160% of what you are earning today. Okay, so which means if you have 1,000 rupees as your net worth, sorry, I went fast, I'll go slow again. Your earning is 100 rupees. Can you cut the presentation off? Okay, and can you use a whiteboard? Can you just write these numbers down? Okay, maybe I can do that. Can you just do a whiteboard? So your existing income is 100. Okay, you're getting an offer. Somebody wants to pay you 60% more, so you're going to get 160, right? So next year, there is a potential chance that you will earn 60% more. So can you just write these three numbers? 100, I mean, just write I income equal to 100, and this is going to become 160. Okay. You can do it with your mouse, I think. Yeah. Now, okay, thank you. Yeah. Oops, it's going all over the place. Okay, don't worry. So, okay, maybe this is not such a good idea. Let's take it out. Okay, so what I was saying is, okay, you're getting, is it working? Okay. All right, okay, don't sweat about it. So I'll go slow again. This is very important. That's why I want to explain this thing properly. We have 100. We are here. We're going to go to 160. We're going to have 60 rupees extra, right? Everybody's okay with that idea. Now, let's come to my net worth. If my net worth or the total money that I have, okay, is say 300 rupees, just as an example. And when I add the 60 rupees to my 300, my net worth is going to go up dramatically, right? By 20% a year. Assuming that I don't need to spend extra money, whatever I'm, living, I can live comfortably, right? If somebody has a problem, please let me know on the chat. But come back to the presentation. So my point was, market capitalization, the market cap that you see, 3,38,39,000 that you see, is the net worth of this company. They are getting order books of 94,000. This 94,000 is not the, is not the profit, but out of this 94,000 order, they will make more profit. That profit will get reflected by increase of share price. But just imagine, the very simple way to do this thing is that if my net worth is 300, I'm getting almost 30% of that as new fresh orders. Okay, go on. Just to give you a perspective, very interesting thing that we found. Okay, now look at this one. 2 lakhs is the net worth. 2,16,000. Okay, 2,17,000. Can you hover your mouse there so we know exactly 2,17,000? Yeah, and order book of 76. But again, another 30% of its net worth is going to be new fresh orders. So the P ratio for the ones who understand this is 54. But see, when there is more sales that will happen, more orders come in, more sales will happen, more profit will happen. Automatically, it will change, right? The market cap will go up, the price goes up. Look at this, or look at this one. 68,000 is the market cap, and how much is the order book? 38,000. मतलब 50% of its total net worth उतना नया order आ रहा है इसके पास. So that's actually making these companies look kind of crazy in terms of appreciation of price. I remember there was a defense fund also which was launched. So the defense index, by the way, we have an index for defense also in our country. Defense index is, up by how much percent? As we speak in June 24, it's up 120% plus in the last 12 months. This is the reason for that. Okay. So that is what is happening in the defense sector also. And there are a lot more sectors, but again, with a little bit of shortage of time, we'll talk about other sectors later on. Bring me back to my presentation. Thank you. So this is defense, but the underlying message I want you to take home with you is global manufacturing hub. So abhi kya ho gaya? Defense mein we want to become global. In power, we want to become global. In cruise tourism, we want to become global. And leaders, we want to become leaders in ship repair and shipbuilding. Now, see where we are going? Are you getting the drift of what's happening? And this is all intention for the next 5 years, right? We're not even talking 25 years. Let's move. So, out of all these key sectors, which are the growth areas of India, I mean, we've covered 4. We've covered power, infrastructure. Within infra, we covered road, railway, ports, and airports. Okay. We've covered infrastructure. Oh, by the way, I must mention, I just remembered. See, infrastructure, one very interesting thing happens, right? So we speak about roads and airports and railway and etc., etc. We sometimes forget that to build all these things, what we need is machinery and we need equipment. So which is why infra on its own cannot happen without these machinery and equipment companies actually also making a lot of money. So think about it. It's a massive, massive area, right? Right from nut bolts to those, what are those huge Caterpillar cranes and, I forget the name, but these are Caterpillar cranes and these are JB machines and things like that. So these are huge earth mover machines and things like that. Those equipment manufacturers also make a lot of money. Defense, we spoke about arms, we spoke about submarines and repair, etc. And there's a lot of other stuff which is happening. Semiconductors is one very big, large area. We also have the intention of becoming a global supplier of semiconductors some point in time. I'm told that in this one little mobile phone also, there are more than about some 60, 70,000. It's not confirmed, but this is what I just happened to read somewhere. I'm not sure of this, but about 60 to 70,000 semiconductors just go in this phone. If somebody knows, they can correct me. But imagine a car, how many semiconductors we're going to have there. And then talking about cars and automobile, there's a lot of activity happening in the automobile and the electric vehicle space, hospitality, metals, commodities, finance. We'll cover these things as we sort of move along with the year. But I just thought it was very, very appropriate because as the new government is completing their first 100 days, soon in the next 2 months or so, it's important to see what has been written. It's important to pay attention to what was written in the manifesto and what is the ground reality, what is happening and what we can expect to see in the next 5 years. And which is why we thought we'll put all these things together, and which is why we thought this is the greatest story that we are actually living through and which we will tell our future generations and our children and grandchildren at some point of time. This is yet another slide that we thought we'll show for all the skeptics, of the world, to say that, look, what's happening here? I mean, all this, is it really just talk or is it really translating into numbers? So what's very interesting is, and these circles that you see, in Jhaveri, if you can take us there, in FY 1920, the GST collection was about 12 lakh crores for the whole year, which in 23-24 stands at 20 lakh crores, little less than double, correct? And without going too much into the details of it, I can a little later in Q&A. The total tax that we sort of paid together as individuals, as companies and everybody together, and mind you, with the smaller percentage of people in our country who are actually paying taxes, we paid about 22.7 lakh crores as taxes, total taxes in 1920. And that has doubled to almost doubled, again, a shade below doubling, to about 39 or 40 lakh crores in the last year, 23-24. As we speak, if you want to know how the economy is doing or whether the stock market will fall or not fall, I've said this lots of times, look at the tax numbers that are revealed every month. GST numbers are announced every month. Advanced tax numbers are announced every quarter. Okay, and then you look at the inflation numbers. So you have a very, very good sense of, how are we faring as a country. Okay. So this is just to again sort of talk about. We've spoken about this, so let's sort of move forward. So that's that, and friends, this is my summation of India's growth story for the time being. Okay, this we will speak on a lot of things, a lot of themes as we move along. But for today, thank you very much for joining. It's lovely having you.